Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Sonia Shavasa.
And I'm Rochelle Metzger. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight in the state capitol. From Florida to the nation's capital and today Annapolis, people continue to demand justice for the Florida teen killed last month. 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was gunned down by a neighborhood watch captain as he returned from a convenience store. Denise Douglas has the details on what's going on in Annapolis.
We've seen many rallies across the country calling for justice for Trayvon Martin. Well, today, lawmakers right here in Annapolis making their voices heard on this issue.
And the fact that this happened is injustice.
Over their conservative shirts and blouses, lawmakers wore hoodies to draw attention to the Trayvon Martin case.
We're legislators. We're citizens. We're not gangsters. Maybe someone's perception, someone will perceive us as such, but that's not enough to take a life.
17-year-old Martin was wearing a sweatshirt with a hood when he was gunned down last month in Florida by George Zimmerman. Zimmerman said he was threatened, but many believe the teen was racially profiled.
Because a child wears a hood or because you wear your hair a certain way does not dictate your behavior. And you should not make assumptions based on what people wear, nor how they look, nor the color of their skin.
Senator Catherine Pugh, the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, says they are sending a letter to the Justice Department demanding an investigation. The FBI and a grand jury are already looking into the killing that has led to a public outcry across the country for Zimmerman's arrest.
This thing is just so rigged with incompetency because this gentleman was allowed to leave the scene. And then we hear that, his nose was broken. But he didn't leave the scene in an ambulance. So, I mean, there's a lot of things here that are very discerning. And so we're hoping that a full investigation of his activities are taking place.
One of George Zimmerman's friends has reportedly said that he is very remorseful, but for folks supporting Martin and his family, that's just not enough. I'm Denise Douglas, CTV News.
Another rally is being held in downtown Baltimore this evening at the corner of Pratt and Light Streets.
And meanwhile, students at Bowie State University also shared their concerns on the Trayvon Martin case, saying social inequality and the justice system are partly to blame.
I am very outraged and upset with what's going on. I feel like it's a racist situation.
It makes me feel that, there's still issues that we need to address, and I'm glad that some of the political leaders and stuff are speaking up and addressing those issues.
Trayvon Martin, it is an outward expression of the situations here in the United States. We have a 17-year-old young man who was simply minding his own business, being profiled for something that he wasn't doing, and now his life has been lost because of someone else's depiction of what a black man is in the United States.
I think it's such a tragedy that in the world we live in today, that race plays such a big role. It amazes me that the person who threw flour on Kim Kardashian was arrested on site, but the murderer of an unarmed, innocent black male is still walking free. And I think that it's important that we as a black community pull together to draw attention to what happens to us every day, and that we demand that the media, the government, and everyone else take notice.
Martin was killed 1 month ago today.
It's day 3 of early voting in Maryland, and residents have been heading to the polls since Saturday. Patricia Villone is in Landover at one of the early voting sites with more.
I'm at the Sports and Learning Complex where voters are steadily coming in to cast their ballots. Just about everyone we spoke with said they love the early voting centers.
Very appreciative of the early voting setup. It makes it more convenient, and it was very pleasant, and just to see some of the people in the community and neighborhood.
Well, I supported Barack Obama and Ben Cardin. I think they're doing a wonderful job, and why change? I think they're reflecting my concerns and my issues, and this was very convenient. I loved it. It wasn't any line, and I liked how they were able to make sure that you were there was no fraud, because they asked you questions even though we didn't have ID. And they asked you questions that only you would know. So I was glad about that.
Did you know about the early voting centers?
No, I did not. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't know. Actually, if I knew about the early voting, I would have came here much earlier. I'm a teacher at Woodstream Christian Academy.
And you're here to teach today, not to vote?
I'm here to teach, yes I am.
In addition to the Sports and Learning Complex, there are 4 other early voting centers that are open. Those are the Upper Marlboro and the College Park Community Centers and the Bowie and the Oxon Hill Libraries. From Landover, I'm Patricia Villone for CTV News.
And polls are open daily until March 29th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at one of the 5 county early voting sites. If you can't make it to one of these sites, you can vote on primary election day, April 3rd, at your designated polling place.
A new program that promises openness and accountability was launched today by the County Executive's Office. During a press conference, members of the new STAT program presented what they are calling a new measurable step towards government accountability. Officials say STAT will monitor government performance, promote innovation, and share county data.
It's an effort by us to make sure our government is as transparent as possible. But it's also a way of us measuring our progress and taking some of the best ideas from around the nation and vetting them through a process.
This sort of STAT setup, and we'll use the word STAT as a noun, a verb, you name it, but it represents just a culture of accountability and being data-driven, evidence-based in our decision-making, that we don't shoot from the hip. We don't make big decisions based on assumptions, but we test hypotheses and we try to figure out what works, and then we implement that policy, and then we measure it at the end and make any changes.
Residents are encouraged to log in to the STAT website at princegeorgescountymd.gov/county-stat to give feedback and anonymous tips on government operations. Well, it looks like residents in Prince George's will not have to pay a 5-cent tax on plastic bags. State legislation backed by County Executive Rochelle Baker and the council fell short by one vote on Saturday in the House Environmental Matters Committee. If the measure was approved, it would have given Prince George's the authority to impose a bag tax. You are watching CTV News. I'm Sonia Shrivastava.
And I'm Rochelle Metzger.